Can everybody hear me all good? All right, anyways, I'm going to assume that you guys can hear me. And so, welcome to my very first live ever. This is an engineering feat given the fact that we're in the middle of a abandoned ghost town. And I am very excited to be here. So, first, I wanted to give you guys a little update on one second. Yeah, it's clear out. Get the fuck out. So first, I wanted to give you guys a little update on the water situation here at Cerro Gordo. So the reason that I was not able to have this live stream yesterday is because the water since went out again. And so I came back, and yesterday, me and the water crew went back down to the 700-foot level. We replaced the pipe from the water source all the way to the pump. And I'm happy to say that water was flowing yesterday, and water is once again flowing today here at Cerro Gordo. And that is very exciting news because in just next week, the start of the American Hotel will begin. Finally, the rebar is going to be being set next week. I'm going to try to turn off this chat thing real fast because it is. Um, so, Next week, the rebar is officially getting set in place for the American Hotel. And obviously, if you guys have been following this channel, I've had a tremendously difficult time getting the concrete up our 8-mile dirt road to here at Cerro Gordo. And so, with the help of a YouTuber, some of you may know a guy named Heavy D Sparks. Thank you very much, Mr. Dave Sparks. We will be bringing the cement up here to Cerro Gordo starting the beginning of June. So in June, the construction of the American Hotel will begin. And so I'm very excited about that. Those are two very important updates for me and two updates that I'm very excited about. And this video today, I want to just take time to say thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, from the bottom of my heart. This has been probably one of the best years of my life up here, in no small part to everybody watching this. The support of the town is what keeps me going. It's what keeps me going those 12 or 13-hour nights working in the backhoe, pushing dirt around because of you guys. You're helping me keep this town alive, bringing history back to life. That's my goal from day one, is just to preserve the history that's here for future generations. I see myself as a custodian above and beyond everything else. There was owners before, there'll be owners after, and during this time, I just hope to bring more people into the history of Cerro Gordo, and hopefully from there they learn all sorts of new things. And so today, the goal of this video is to answer some questions live. This has been a request from a lot of people over time. And during this video, I am going to do something that I've never done before and give away 2 trips here to Cerro Gordo. I have some extra frequent flyer miles that are not going to be used by me. And so my hope is to bring 2 people out from this channel to experience Cerro Gordo in person. That means flying them out, getting them to Cerro Gordo, putting them up in the bunkhouse, maybe the haunted room, and just giving a tour, letting them experience this town, because it's one thing to see it on video. It's totally another thing to kind of see it in real life. So what I'm going to try to do is do that every 10 minutes. So it's 1:05 right now. So at 1:15, I'm going to select somebody, and then 10 minutes after that, select somebody else. And in the meantime, I hope to just answer some questions. And so please bear with me. I have never done a live video before. This is my very first. And so I have my computer and my phone. So I am trying to do my very best. So the first question I want to answer was from Starman, who is on the Discord. So if you're not on Discord, I encourage you to jump on that. But his question is, how would you compare your first few weeks at Cerro Gordo to the past few weeks? And that's a good question. When I came here 14 months ago, I think I was energetic but woefully unprepared for what was ahead of me. If you watch my first video, you'll see I showed up to Cerro Gordo with Allbirds sandals on, and I got stuck in the snow. It was just, nothing could have prepared me for living up here for an extended period of time. And these days, I'd like to think that I'm a lot more prepared. I'm a lot more self-reliant. I've learned that I have to be a little bit more planning ahead of time. So where in Austin, I lived, 4 blocks from the grocery store, and I could go to the grocery store almost every day. And I lived, 5 minutes from the Home Depot. So if I was working on a project and I forgot something, I could run to the store a dozen times and it wouldn't take up my day. Where here, that's not going to happen, And so when I'm working on projects, forgetting a box of nails isn't an option. And so what you learn ahead of time is just to have almost like a boneyard, like a storage unit with anything you could possibly need. And so that's why when people sometimes are like, "Hey, could you use, this box of fasteners that I have?" I always say yes because I might not need it right now, but I might need it in the future. And so I'd like to think that, personally, I'm a bit more self-reliant and prepared in a way that maybe I never was before. And so that's kind of the first, question that I had up here. Let me see another one that's down there. Uh, this is caught from the Big Dumb. Is it weird going back to a busy city after being up at Cerro Gordo for so long? It is, even to me, going to Lone Pine, which I think has a population of 1,000, is different. If you're up here for so long at Cerro Gordo, you're used to certain noises, the noises of the wind through the trees, or how, maybe a certain gate go squeaks when somebody goes through it. And when I go back into the city, it's almost like sensory overload. You're there and there's noises and clouds and all sorts of crazy stuff. But I think I still appreciate it. I still enjoy going down to Lone Pine and like looking around a little bit. But whenever I'm there, I always want to come back up here. And in my darkest times up here, I'm like, it'd be great to go back to a city. But I always seem to find my way back up here as just a function of how it goes. Let me find some other questions here. They're going very fast. Um, Somebody says, "Where do you see yourself and Serogoto in 10 years?" I think that's a good question. When I came up here in March, my original plan was to stay for a couple months. And then I think the more time I spent here, the more I just fell in love with the town and the projects I was working on. And then obviously, since the American Hotel had its strategy, I doubled down. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here full time until that's fully rebuilt and operating. If I look 10 years from now, what I hope is that more people can come up and experience Cerro Gordo in a variety of ways. I think it's one thing to come up and take a tour for a day, so come up, spend a few hours, look around the general store, check out the assay office, but I think it's totally different experience to be here to see the sunrise and the sunset. So the first overnight accommodation option that'll be available is the hotel. And as I said in the beginning of this video, the rebar of the hotel is going to be laid this coming week. I have a plan now to get the concrete here, and my hope is that, within the next 6 months, the American Hotel is completed. And in the top floor of that, there's going to be 6 rooms. So 6 rooms in the hotel. After that, I hope to add about 10 to 12 cabins around the countryside here. So that way, people that maybe don't want to stay in the hotel but want a little bit more room can have their own private cabin. And you see me working on those in some of the most recent videos. I'm always working on these little cabins. And then finally, after that, over the backside of the property, there's about 200 acres that overlooks Death Valley National Park. And my hope there is just to create campsites, campsites that are very spread out where people can just take their time, look into the Death Valley, and just enjoy the stillness up here. And all of those places, no matter where you're staying, whether it's in the cabins or the campsites, can come back to the American Hotel at night, sit around the bar, get a bite to eat, and just enjoy the space up here. And I want to do that because I want to be able to offer accommodation no matter your comfort level or income level, So there'll be the hotel, there'll be private cabins, and there'll be campsites. And all of them will be here at Cerro Gordo. And hopefully that appeals to a large variety of people. And that's the plan for Cerro Gordo in 10 years. As far as like a personal plan, I plan to be here for the foreseeable future. I'm definitely not going anywhere until the hotel and some cabins are built. Long term, I would love to have a family eventually, and I think raising a family at Cerro Gordo would be a interesting possibility. I think going to school or something like that, if I look far ahead, would be difficult. So I could see maybe in 10 years having a space in Lone Pine or somewhere close and spending the majority of the time here, but also having the ability to go somewhere else. And so that's my hope. That's my dream, and to get there, obviously every day takes a little bit of work. And so even after this, I'm going to go back out and I need to clean up the hotel site a little bit with the backhoe. So I'll be leaving here, going just outside this door and cleaning up there a little bit. But let me find another question. Um, there's a question that says, "What's the wildest fact about Cerro Gordo?" And that's a good question. And so I think to me, the history of Cerro Gordo is the reason I'm excited about Cerro Gordo. It's the reason that this patch of land is so much. It's why the reason that this patch of land gets so much attention, where a patch of land similar just around the hill maybe not. And so for me, when I think about the history of Cerro Gordo, what blows my mind is that at the peak of Cerro Gordo, there was 4,500 residents here. So 4,500 people called this little patch of land home. And at that point in time, Los Angeles, which obviously was the bigger city, only had 6,000 residents. So that just puts into perspective how big Cerro Gordo was compared to Los Angeles at the time. And because everything at Serogoto had to be brought up, imagine mules and everything else had to be packed into here, it required a larger port city. And the closest port city was Los Angeles. And so the demand of Cerro Gordo forced Los Angeles to develop quicker. And that's mind blowing to me, that this small patch of land that I'm going to call home was, responsible for developing a city that almost everybody in America knows and is known around the world is amazing. And I think the fact that these days a lot of people know Los Angeles, but almost nobody knows Cerro Gordo is, something I work on. I try to get the word out about Cerro Gordo and the history here, and hopefully that leads people into different wormholes about history and all that type of stuff. But that's my hope, anyways. And so I think it's about 10 minutes in. So what I want to do now is kind of select the first person. I'm using the software that automatically selects the winners of this, bringing them out to Cerro Gordo. And so I am going to do that right now. So let's see. Um, I click a button that says select winner. So just bear with me. Uh, the first person that it selected, it's an email address. That's a little bit tricky. Um, The name is Harley, and I believe the name is Harley Smallwood. And I'm going to email this person directly. There's not a name form, but that's what the email address would indicate to me. So if there's a Harley Smallwood watching this stream, I am going to email you directly, and I will let you know how we're going to coordinate this, how to get set this all up, and everything like that. I'm not going to read their address out loud because obviously that's problematic to say the very least. But if there's a Harley Smallwood watching this, I hope to see you very soon. I'm excited to show you around Cerro Gordo and show you everything this place is about. And I thank you so much for the support of the channel. And I will email you shortly. And so it's about 1:15 now. So in about 10 more minutes, I'm going to select the second person and we will go from there. But thank you, Harley Smallwood, or somebody who uses Harley Smallwood as part of their email address. Thank you very much and excited to meet you soon. So let me get back into some questions. I'm having a bit of a difficult time keeping up, but let me see here. There is a question. Hmm. What's my favorite skill that I've learned during my time at Cerro Gordo? I think it was more just like an appreciation for learning new skills generally. When I moved up here, I didn't know how to do a lot. And these days, even when I'm thinking through my day today, I'm going to go use the backhoe to clear the site for the American Hotel. Later, I'm going to go rappel down a mine shaft to hopefully find treasures, and then after that, I'm going to work a little bit on the new miner's cabin that I'm building. And so I think it takes a little bit to learn new skills, especially, I'm over 30, and so it's not an everyday thing that you're learning all these new skills, and so I feel very fortunate to push myself to learn these new things, and I think it kind of repeats itself. The more I find enjoyment in doing these new skills, the more I want to learn new skills, and so every day I try to push the boundary just a little bit to see what I can learn that day and how I can kind of further develop the skills. It's one thing to be able to ride a motorcycle, but today I'm going to go out and try a different trail that I've never done before that is much more difficult. And so I hope that that improves my skill even more. And that way, I can just get better at these things. And so I think, if there's any of you out there thinking about learning new skills, I would greatly just say get out there and do it. If you want to learn construction, just try to build a doghouse or something. My first project at Cerro Gordo was this cabin beyond the hill. So if you watch my very early videos, I chose this small little miner's cabin over the back crest of Cerro Gordo because I wanted kind of a room to experiment with low risk, so to speak. So I started there, and these days, building the cabins just here in the main city. And so get out there and give something a shot. And I think, what do you have to lose? Let me see another video. What kind of motorcycle to ride? I ride a Honda 250 these days. That's what I use. I had a 450 and I found it to be too big for me for maneuvering around some of these trails. So I have a 250. It's not fuel injected, so I had to jet the carburetors, but it works really good these days, and I like it very much. Um, as far as visiting, so somebody just asked about visiting Serogoto. So obviously during the pandemic, the visitation was pretty much shut down. But now that the weather's getting better, it seems like the world's opening a little bit more. We're open for self-guided tours, so I'm usually busy during my day. My day is spent working on these cabins, bouncing around the town, doing various things. But we are open for kind of self-guided tours. So if you're in the area and you want to come up, see Cerro Gordo, uh, I'll usually unlock the general store, the museum, and let you look in there. And there's the assay office above it to take photos and stuff like that. And so for self-guided tours, yes. As far as the hotel, I hope to have that open, closer probably to wintertime now, just to realistically how long it's going to take. So if you're here, uh, self-guided tours, sure. I'm usually somewhere around. So if you see the backhoe, that's usually where I am. I can't always come down. We've been really fortunate over the past few weeks as the weather's gotten better to have volunteers, mainly from this channel. So thank you guys all who have come and volunteered to help rebuild this town. And so sometimes people come up and they're helping out, do different projects. But typically I'm around, so you're welcome to come up, look in the general store, uh, look in the assay office, take some photos and just kind of enjoy the beauty of Cerro Gordo. Uh, there's a question about how many mines in total at Cerro Gordo. So underneath Cerro Gordo, there's something like 30 miles of mines. But when people say Cerro Gordo, they're usually referring to a collection of mines. There's about 6 or 8 mines here that typically they're talking about. And there's different owners back in the day. Each of these different mines have different owners. There's the Newtown mine, which I'm trying to get into. The main mine, though, here was the Union mine. And the Union mine was the largest silver mine in California at the period of time that it was operating. And so the Union mine to me is the most interesting. It's the one that has the vertical shaft 900 feet straight down, and every 100 feet it branches off and has its own levels. So the Union mine is kind of the biggest one, but Cerro is really a collection of a variety of different mines that are out there. Let me see another question. A question is about what type of animals do I want to add? So obviously, over the last year, the animal collection here at Serogoto has grown. At first there was none, and I was living here for a while, and I was like, what, there just needs to be some type of life form around here. And I've had goats before. In fact, I had a goat in Austin, Texas. Believe it or not, I had a pretty big yard there, and I had a goat named Turtle. He wore a gold chain, and he was quite the goat in Austin. And I had an acre there, so I had plenty of land for the goat to hang out at. And it turns out my neighbors didn't like this goat so much. And so my friend had a ranch just outside of Austin. So Turtle these days lives on the ranch outside of Austin. And when I moved to Cerro Gordo, goats are a great pet. They're pretty low maintenance. They even help clear some of the brush around the buildings for kind of fire prevention and all that. And so goats were the first addition, which was very exciting. And then being very practical, I realized there was mice here at Cerro Gordo, field mice specifically. And the problem with field mice is that they could potentially have the hantavirus. And if you get hantavirus, you're gonna have a very bad time. And so the mouse droppings here can be potentially fatal. And so I do not want mice at Cerro Gordo, or I want to do everything I can to prevent that from happening, obviously. And so I got some cats. And the first cats were outdoor cats. They were purely stray cats that a farmer had that he brought up here, and now they live outside and they're happily ever after. They run around all over the place. After that, I added the kittens. Then most recently, I added the alpacas. But as far as future animals I want to have at Cerro Gordo, I'd love to have mules. Mules were such a big part of Cerro Gordo's history. Everything that came and went from Cerro Gordo came and went by mules. And so that is on the list very highly to do. Um, Horses are interesting, right? So horses are one where they require a lot of water. So I don't necessarily want to commit to having a horse until I can find a reliable water source. Finding the water in the mine is great, but I never go into getting new animals haphazardly. I think you need to fully think through what it's like having them for many years because these animals will live a long time. So, upkeep, water needs, food needs, all those things. I try to keep those in mind when I'm thinking about new animals. Although I would love to have a horse. I think it'd be fun to ride the horse through town and be like, hey, it's a one horse town. That to me that would be hilarious. And so eventually, horses and donkeys, probably donkeys next. They're probably next on the list for practical reasons. They'll both move stuff around town as well as protect the other animals. So that's on the list. And then a horse one day maybe. So we shall see. I think though, I want to select the second person to bring out to Cerro Gordo to not delay it anymore. So let me open back up my little thing, and I will draw now on my computer. The suspense build is taking a second to. Uh, Edward. I'm gonna keep it very vague because I don't have your full name, but if your name is Edward and you use a Hotmail address, that's not your full email address, obviously. But Edward something 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 Edward plus numbers at hotmail.com. Congratulations! I'm gonna see you very soon, and I hope that you have a great time up here. I'm very excited to bring people up here, show them around, get them the first time of seeing Cerro Gordo in real life, so to speak. And so, Edward, look out for an email from me, and if you get it, let's set up the time for you to come out here. That's easy for both of us to do. So, Edward plus a bunch of numbers at Hotmail. Look out for an email from me. I will be sending that very shortly. So, congratulations and thank you all, whether that or not, for just supporting the channel. It's very moving to me. It means more than you guys probably know that you guys get on here every week and support me. And I hope to continue making great videos that you like. I'll say this. This live stream is very interesting for me. It's a little bit overwhelming. I can't really keep up for the questions. And so next week, I will be back to normal type of programming. I am exploring a mine that I've wanted to explore for a very long time next week. And so think about that. I'm going to answer a few more questions, but I did want you guys to know that next week we will be back to regular scheduled programming. And that's a little bit more on my speed just because I'm looking at the chat right now and I apologize if I'm not getting to your question. If you have questions that I don't get to, the best way I would say is DM me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Brent W Underwood. And if I don't respond, just follow up on it. And I try to respond. I respond to probably hundreds of questions per week on Instagram. So if you have a question I don't get to in this live stream, shoot me a message, Brent W Underwood at Instagram, and I will certainly get back to you. But let's get to a couple more. There's a question about have I played any more Minecraft? So no, I did play Minecraft in one video. I played it, and I was never a big video game guy growing up. It just wasn't thing. I think the last console that I had was a Nintendo 64, where you played James Bond. That's probably dating myself pretty good, but that was the last time I think I regularly played any types of video games. And I know that Minecraft's amazing. I got into a little bit. It's just it wasn't for me. Computer for me and all sorts of other stuff. So I haven't played a lot of Minecraft, but maybe one day. Why personally do I have so much love for Serogoto? I think this is a good question. So my whole life I had a lot of jobs. I had jobs doing. Worked at a golf course. I worked at a smoothie joint. I worked at a honey baked ham, and all these other things. And my headphones just went out, so can you guys still hear me? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. So yes, okay. So my first job was working at a golf course. So I had all sorts of different jobs, and then I went to school, and both my parents were teachers. So my dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher. So education was very important. And so growing up, the kind of only options for me was like you're going to be a banker, a lawyer, or a doctor. And I didn't like blood. Law school seemed like a really long timeline and kind of boring to me. So I decided banking. I was like, oh, that's a real job. That's a professional job. And so I went to school for banking, and I ended up going to graduate school because education was very important in my household. Given that my parents were teachers, getting a big education was a big thing. Did that, paid for school myself. My parents haven't given me any financial support since I was 18. So I got student loans. I went to a fancy college. I paid so much money to do it. I got a job as an investment banker. The dream, what everybody told you was supposed to be the magical answer to all of your insecurities. And then I realized after a month that I hated it. I just despised being an investment banker. There's no offense to anybody out there that's an investment banker. I remember specifically the day it happened. They told me I was on a due diligence consulting team. So we would go to these towns and consult on their non-performing loans. So people that weren't paying their mortgages, we would assign a number to them and all this type of stuff. And they're like, hey, Brent, you're going to go to Chicago. And I was 22, and I was like, great, let's go to Chicago. Turns out I ended up going to Gurnee, which is just outside Chicago. And I looked around at all the people that I was with, and I was like, none of them are happy. I was with this team of 10 people that were all older than me, and none of them were happy. And so I quit. Month into it, I quit, and my only marching orders for myself was like, I'm never going to work at a bank. That was my only thing to do. So I traveled for a while. I bounced around all these other random jobs. I worked grading papers for a standardized test taking company. I was writing freelance articles for some credit card company. I moved very deep into Brooklyn where my rent was really cheap. Just anything I could do. My only goal in life was to not wear a suit and work at this bank. And it wasn't easy at first. It was like I went from paying all this money, being so in debt for school, to then writing freelance articles for a credit card company for like $10 an article. And, that brings questions to your mind. And I was like, was this really the best decision? Um, but in the end, it was. I bounced around. I think individually, you get to a place where you have your own unique skill sets by trying a lot of things and combining them in a way that nobody else can. And so for me, getting that background in banking, getting that background in real estate allowed me to, in the future, merge those things together when it came time to purchase Cerro Gordo. And so I think for anybody watching this, if you're a little lost as I was for a very long time in careers, like I wouldn't be ashamed or difficult to try all sorts of different jobs, whether they're way below your education level or not. Like I said, I had a master's in investment banking, and I was writing freelance articles for $10 an article. That was just what I needed to do. And I think through writing those articles, I learned more about storytelling and writing, and that all combines in a unique way now at Cerro Gordo. So I'm a big proponent of just trying all sorts of different jobs, seeing what's out there, seeing what you like. And I think in the future, you just have to have the confidence that they're going to merge in a beautiful way that'll make your unique skill set different from everybody else in the world. And so that's kind of my education path, I guess. That's what brought me here. And I hope I continue to keep learning new skills and combining them in, beautiful ways. Kimberly just asked me, what is my favorite activity to do at Serogoto? And first off, thank you, Kimberly, so much for all the support in the mods and the Discord channel, everything else. I very much appreciate it. But my favorite activity is probably my nightly dirt bike rides. When I first came up here and I didn't ride a dirt bike, they would start as nightly hikes. I love just kind of getting a little bit lost. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but like I enjoy going on a new trail to a point that I've never been before, and just kind of leaving my phone and my computer behind. Ironic, given that I'm looking at both my computer and my phone while saying that. But my favorite time of night is kind of that golden hour where I'm just on my dirt bike, out where nobody can reach me, and I'm just exploring something new. Because there's that feeling that it doesn't leave you. It's still there when you're into something new, but I enjoy kind of basking in that feeling now. I remember the first time I ever went overseas. I studied abroad in the country of Panama when I was 19. And I remember as soon as the plane landed, that feeling of the unknown, and it was a mixture of excitement, but also like, a little bit scared. You're in a new country, you're a teenager, you don't really know what you're doing. I still get a tingling of that feeling every time I take my dirt bike to a new place and I'm a little bit lost. But nowadays, I feel comfortable in just kind of sitting with it and enjoying that feeling of just the unknown. So my favorite time of the day is whenever I can get out there on my bike and just get a little bit lost, I guess. I'm gonna get another question. There's a question somebody keeps asking at the height of Cerro Gordo, if I could choose any job, what job would I choose? I don't know what job I would choose. I know what job I wouldn't choose. So there was a job called the mucker. And so how they mined back in the days, imagine there's sorry for my dirty hands and band-aids. I was digging earlier. But there was there's a rock wall. So a guy would take an air drill because electricity didn't come to Cerro Gordo until 1913. So the peak of Cerro Gordo was 1865 to about 1880. So you figure all that time there wasn't electricity. So all the tools were air powered. So there was a drill. They would drill in, pack it with dynamite, blow it up, and then the job was called mucking. So you'd be a mucker, and you would go back, collect all the rock, put it in the ore cart, or just take it generally out of the tunnel. And so that is a guy that's going in there with still hot rocks and having to pull them all out with potential collapses and all sorts of other things. So it's an extraordinarily dangerous job. So I don't know what my ideal job would be, but I know I would not want to be a mucker back in the day. And it is with an M, just in case you're watching with your kids. It's mucker, M-U-C. But that would probably be my least favorite job. There's a question about how do you deal with the mental strain of being alone from Unsung Hero 630. I enjoy it. When I first moved up to Cerro Gordo, I was a very social person. Prior to this, I owned a backpacker hostel in Austin, Texas, and there's few places in the world as social as a backpacker hostel. You figure bunk beds and rooms with travelers from all over the world. Every single night, I would sit on a couch like this and just be able to sit around and talk and tell stories to people from all over the world. So I was a very social person. So I remember when I came up to Cerro Gordo in March of last year, there was nobody here for many, many months in a row, and I kind of learned how to deal with that. And at first, I do have my phone that works obviously up here, so you would call friends. But I find that the more time I spend here, the more I enjoy being alone. And I'm not advocating that as a good thing. It's just a reality of the situation. And so I've come to enjoy it, but I do try to remind myself to like schedule things that are social. And so for me, this channel has been a big part of that social environment. Every week I try to jump in here in the premiere chat and talk to people from all over the world. And it's beautiful to me. That's why I look forward to these Saturdays, or I guess today's Sunday, but usually I look forward to Saturdays at 1 p.m. when I try to put out videos so much, is because it gives me that social outlet just to interact with people from all over the place. Um, the next question is about water. So, have you ever thought about having a well drilled for water? That's from Terry. I have. I would love to have water here. Obviously, water is the missing puzzle piece at Cerro Gordo. If I can solve water, then everything else is going to seem easy. Wells are difficult. So I'm up at 8,500 feet. I'm basically solid bedrock. And so there's been well exploration in the past that hasn't struck anything. But obviously, like technology's gotten much better since then. And so I hope that maybe one day I could, drill something and I would strike water because that would just change the town forever. And so I'm open to it. I would love to bring up an expert in well water situation. I mean, even yesterday there was a guy up here, and his whole profession is collecting snow water. So we were talking about different ideas to potentially capture some of the snow melt that comes off of here, because I think for Cerro Gordo to be where it needs to be, for it to be this town that lives on for hundreds or thousands of years in the future, there's going to need to be a reliable water source. And so if I think of my mental priority list, water is pretty much at the top. And I've explored a lot of options, and I do a lot of this in the background, and I continue to explore options. So I would love to drill a well. I've heard that it wasn't possible, but I've heard that a lot of things at Cerro Gordo weren't possible that ended up being very possible. So I'm going to give it a shot, and obviously I'll make a video about it, and you guys can all check it out. So if people want to hear about how I discovered Cerro Gordo, and I think that's a fun story. So I was in Austin, Texas, and I had been up 395 before. So 395 is, it goes by Cerro Gordo, it goes to Lone Pine, it goes to Big Pine, it goes to Mammoth, and it's one of the most beautiful stretches of road that I've ever been on in my life. It's amazing to just go up 395 and get lost. And in Austin, the hostel that I had was in a historic building. So it was in a building from the 1800s. And I just think there's something beautiful about people being able to come, stay in a building that's part of that town's history. You know, it's one thing to stay in these white box Marriotts or sorry Marriott, white box hotels, and that can look the same all over the world. You know, I've been in hotels where they look the exact same no matter where you are in the world. You could be in Tokyo, or you could be in, you know, Perth, or you could be in, you know, Cape Town, and it feels the exact same. I don't like that. I like staying in a piece of that town's history, even when I travel as a guest myself. So I was looking for another hospitality project that had history to it, you know, and obviously Serogoto is that. And so my buddy one night around 3 a.m. He lives in Los Angeles. He texted me a link to Cerro Gordo. He's like, "Hey man, I think this is for sale." And he texted it as a joke. You know, it was my friend named Aaron. He's like, "Hey, check this out. It could be fun for you. I know you're looking for a bigger project." And he texted it as a joke, but I woke up in the morning and I read everything I could read about Cerro Gordo. You know, like every book, every article, everything. And I just fell in love with the place. And I flew out and I visited, and that was it. You know, I was like immediately enamored. This was going to be the thing for the next period of time. And so once I got here, I walked around. And for the first 2 years, I was trying to manage it from afar. You know, I was living in Austin, Texas, still had the hostel going, coming out here on weekends. And Serogo is a project that it can't be a back burner project. You know, it's one that requires all of you. You know, it's taken every dollar I have, every ounce of energy I have, every waking moment Cerro Gordo can take from you. And it needs that to get to a place where it was. And so over a year ago, last March, I moved up here full time, and my love for the place has just reached another level. You know, it's such a magical place. I'm just realize something new about it every single day. And I just can't wait to basically, you know, spend the rest of my life here. I think for a very long time I was looking for a big challenge. You know, I wanted something that I truly believed in, you know, like a job with a purpose that I loved. And I didn't find that in the banking or in anything else I did, but here I do. You know, I truly believe in what I'm trying to do, you know, in restoring the town. I think that history here is important. I think it's important for future generations. And so if you have that belief in your work, if you truly believe that it's important and what you're doing is impactful, I think it makes it easier. And I think I found that here, and I found something that kind of requires all of me. If it is that challenge I was always looking for, and it's probably a bigger challenge than I could have ever imagined, but I love it here, and I love sharing it with everybody. And so again, I thank you all so much for being here. I'm gonna stop this here because to be honest with you, I can't keep up with the chat and all that type of stuff, but I thank you all so much for the support of this channel. If you have follow-up questions, all night this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sit on Instagram and just answer every question that I can. So shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm gonna answer it. I thank you all so much for the support of this channel. Congrats to uh, Edward and Harley. I'm going to send you guys an email after this. So I hope that you guys all have an amazing week. I'm back next week with our regular scheduled content. It's an amazing mine exploration. I hope you guys enjoy it. But until then, have a great week. I'm going to go work on the American Hotel, and I'll see all you guys next time.